Hello, I'm David Morris. Well, the weather might be warming between China and Australia since the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese visited China late last year, and the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is expected to visit Australia very soon. But this week we've had news about the Malaysian Prime Minister here in Australia making comments saying, well, you may have problems with China, but don't impose them on us, stressing that Malaysia is an independent nation and values its relationships with China and with Australia and US and others. This is a good example of the kind of cultural differences in the way that we express ourselves. And actually, over the years, Australia and Malaysia, Australia and Indonesia have often had misunderstandings. The Australian Prime Minister years ago famously described the Malaysian Prime Minister as recalcitrant for not attending an APEC summit, and this caused great offence. In the Australian cultural context, it was just a bit of fun. It wasn't actually intended to cause offence. Although, at other times, there have been matters of great offence on both sides. Australians disapprove of the death penalty. So when Australians have been sentenced to death in Indonesia for drug smuggling, for example, which carries a death sentence in Indonesia, this has upset Australians, and Australians have protested about it. And this also causes cultural clash between two very different cultures. Lately, what have we seen between Australia and China in recent years? Many commentators actually explain the deterioration in the relationship because of some provocative statements made by Australian leaders about China. Now, one thing I would point out is that in Australia there's a very frank and vibrant exchange of political views. This is the nature of Australian society. Aussies can be pretty brutal in their words. Sometimes their debates, their political debates, here are more like verbal conflict. And so maybe sometimes we Aussies say things that are offensive. Most of the time though, after having a vibrant debate, we're still happy to have a drink with someone and make up with them later. That's just the Aussie way. So let's hope that from these meetings this week with the ASEAN leaders in Australia, that Australia develops a better understanding of its Asian neighbours, and that Asia starts to understand Australia better too. That may well contribute, I think, to the Australia-China relationship as well. We all need to understand each other better.